Hello, everyone. It's your boy, Mr. Lamb, and I am kind of sick with allergy stuff. You know, it's been raining a lot. I'm waiting for the sun to come out, but hey, rain or shine, maths, we still need to keep the grind. So let's begin. Today we are learning about the vertex form, and the vertex form helps you to understand a lot about parabola. So let's take a look and let's copy this down. We have vertex form with y, it's equal to a times the quantity means parentheses, x minus h squared plus k. So to read it all together, y equals a times the quantity of x minus h squared plus k. And I'm going to tell you what each of the letters mean, okay? So let's start with a. A actually tells you a bunch of stuff. Because when a is positive, then you have an upward parabola. So just draw upward parabola. So when a is positive, you have an upward parabola. And you can also say it's a positive parabola. And when a is negative, then what do we have? Of course, you guessed it, you will have a negative parabola. Just like that. Now, a also tells us something else. Because if a is less than 1, meaning if you see a fraction like 1/2, 1/3, 2/5, so anytime when the a value, ignoring the sign, it's less than 1, like a fraction, then you're going to have a wider parabola than the parent. And I think we've talked about the parent function is y equals x squared. So compared to y equals x squared, if a is less than 1, it will be wider. And again, when you have a, it's greater than 1, meaning if a is 2 or 5 or negative 10, we just ignore the sign. So negative 10, you just look at it as 10. Anytime when a is greater than 1, then it will become narrower. And knowing all of these things will definitely help you graph faster. So let me just remind all of us, that for these two right here, when we're talking about a, we ignore the sign. So negative 5 will still be considered a is greater than 1 because you wouldn't worry about the negative. So when you see negative 5, just look at it as 5, and that will still be greater than 1. Okay, so now we have our h. And with h, you want to write if you see a negative h, kind of like what you see right here, then the graph shifts to the right. The parabola will shift to the right. And if there's a positive h, so if you see like x plus 3, for example, then it will shift to the left. And of course, we'll do more examples later so that you'll understand. But right now, I just need you to write down these definitions. And finally, we have k. So let me move it over. We have k. Let's use another color. Let's use green. Okay? K is the number all the way at the end. And if you see a positive k, meaning if you add, then the graph shifts up. Ooh, I like this green. And if you have a negative k, meaning you're subtracting a number like minus 6 at the end, then the graph, the parabola shifts down. All right. Now that you guys have the basic understanding of the vertex form, it's time for us to take a look at one of the examples. Okay? So let's move it up. Let's identify the transformations given from this example. So take some time to copy it down first. Okay, so now let's identify what we have. So we notice that a it's equal to 5. This is the number that is from the very beginning, and from that we can make two transformations that we notified. Notice there are two transformations. So the first one, it's a positive or negative. Positive 5 means it's a positive, so the parabola will open upward. Wow, my handwriting, crazy. Upward. Kind of like this. So where do you know the parabola will look like this? Because it's positive. Also, because ignoring the sign, a is 5, and 5 is greater than 1. So we know it's also going to be narrower because a is greater than 5. Now let's take a look at h. Notice how h currently is positive 3. And we talked about if it's a positive number, then it will shift to the left because it's inside the parentheses, so that's why you would do the opposite. So it will shift left by 3 units. Just think about why would you shift left? Because left doesn't it mean negative? Well, if you ever think about, a problem like x plus 3 is equal to 0, if you want to solve for x, what will happen, right? Then you'll get subtract 3 on both sides, and you'll get x is equal to negative 3. So that's why at the end, when you see something in a parentheses, you take the opposite. You see plus 3, it means going to the left inside the parentheses. All right, now let me erase that real quick. Now we have our last transformation, the last shift. The last shift is the -2, and that's k. So that's k. K is -2. So if k is -2, what happens when it's a negative? It means it shifts down by 2 units. So comparing to the parent function, it will open upward. It will be narrower than the y equals x squared. It will shift to the left by 3 and shifts down by 2 units. Now let's have you try. Pause the video and try to do and identify all of the transformations. All right, now that you guys have identified A, H, and K, it is time for us to identify the transformations. So we notice A is negative. So if A is negative, then we know the parabola is going to open downward. And it looks like this when it opens downward. Okay? And then we talked about if we want to find out the parabola is narrower or wider, we ignore the sign. So instead of -2, what we want to look at is pretend the sign is not there. So I cover it. You see a 2. So A is 2. So if A is 2, it's definitely greater than 1. Therefore, we say it is narrower. So ignore the sign and just look at the digit 2. We know it is still greater than 1, so it's narrower. Okay, and then we see that H is negative. It's a -2, and if it's a -2, then it shifts to the right by 2 units. Last but not least, we see K. K currently is +5, and if it's a positive for K, then the parabola shifts up by 5 units. And there you have it, everybody. We have learned the vertex form, and you will see how it is really useful in helping you graph parabolas in future videos. See ya!